Nafisat Amadi stepped off the Lagos International Airport shuttle into the humid embrace of her homeland, her heart still soaring on the wings of her Paris Ballet Conservatory acceptance letter. Dressed in a simple white sundress, her dark African skin glowing beneath the afternoon sun, she clutched a bouquet of white lilies, her congratulatory gift to herself. Every airline tray, every overhead announcement had felt like an overture to her destiny, the famed conservatory, her future laid out in arabesques and grand jetés on the world's greatest stages. Her mother, Mrs. Amadi, waited by the arrival's gate, eyes rimmed with tears of pride. "My ballerina!" she whispered, embracing her daughter so tightly Nafisat thought she might crack her spine. Her father, a retired engineer, pressed crisp Naira notes into her palm for a celebratory dinner, his grin impossibly wide. Saad Afalayan, radiant in a coral jumpsuit and flickering with excitement, snapped selfies with Nafisat, insisting they post them immediately. "Paris, here we come," Saad chirped. But beneath that mantra, a tremor of unease tickled Nafisat's spine, an echo of nightmares in which she watched her point shoes splinter on a cold, indifferent stage. That evening, they gathered at Terra Lounge, Lagos's new hotspot. Champagne flutes clinked. Saad raised her glass. To Nafisat, the first Amadi ballerina on the world stage. Laughter and applause rang out. Then, a hush fell as Nafisat's phone buzzed. She frowned at the screen, an email from the Paris Conservatory's financial office. With trembling fingers, she tapped it open. Subject: Scholarship, Funding Withdrawal. Dear Ms. Amadi, it is with regret that we inform you the funding for your scholarship has been rescinded due to unforeseen budget reallocations. Her vision blurred. Impossible, she mouthed. Saad knocked the phone from her hand in shock. They can't just. Her mother reached across the table. Let me see that. But Nafisat had already opened a second email, this time in bold red. From Emeka Chidike, Talent Agency Director. Paris Scholarship. I trust you'll understand that this decision serves broader strategic interests. Emeka's name hit her like a slug of venom. Months earlier, he'd promised to champion her career. Bookings, connections, the whole 9 yards. Instead, he'd sabotaged her scholarship at the last minute, leaving her stranded. The murmurs in the lounge felt like shards of glass in her mind. Her father slammed the table. Who is this Emeka Chidike? Saad took charge, fingers flying over her phone. Chidike Enterprises. He's the son of that billionaire, Lord Chidike. They've got sway in every ministry, every foundation. If he pulls strings... Nafisat's hands trembled, but her heart hardened. This wasn't just a personal humiliation. It was a war declaration. She stood, voice quivering but fierce. I will not let him bury my dream. The lilies on the table wilted in the stunned silence, petals falling, a herald of the battle to come. 2 nights later, the National Theatre Gala buzzed with Lagos's crème de la crème. Dignitaries, patrons, and foreign guests. A chandelier with hundreds of crystals rain-danced overhead, illuminating the marbled foyer. Banners boasted Nigerian rising stars, the evening's showcase. Nafisat had secured a last-minute slot, an opportunity to prove herself before the country. She wore a pale blue rehearsal leotard, her hair in a tight bun, point shoes freshly stitched by her mother's hands. Saad had rigged a hidden camera on her wrist to live-stream every second. Backstage, she took measured breaths in front of the mirror. In the wings, Emeka Chidike lounged on a velvet chaise, flanked by spineless executives. He sipped champagne as Nafisat scanned his amused smirk. Her blood boiled. She remembered his congratulatory text after her acceptance in Paris. Can't wait to see you rise, starlet. And now, this narcissistic display of power. The spotlight cued. Nafisat stepped onto the polished oak floor, the audience's eyes a furnace of expectation. The piano's first notes rang out, Debussy's Clair de Lune. She moved, plies tendis, the arch of her spine, the arc of her limbs, a silent poem in motion. Every fiber of her being called to that music. But midway through her pirouette, the lights flickered and cut to black. Gasps erupted. Spotlights blazed on Emeka, who stood and raised a hand for silence. Lovely, isn't she? He smiled, voice amplified by the PA. Unfortunately, we regret that Ms. Amadi's performance is unfeasible. Two burly techs stormed the stage and yanked her off, her point shoes scraping across the wood in protest. She tumbled into the velvet curtain, half concealed, trembling as the audience booed and laughed. Off stage, she embraced the wall, breathing ragged. Saad emerged, eyes blazing. He pulled the plug, told them you only had 10 minutes, then killed the feed. Nafisat's tears scalded her cheeks. The stage manager, a timid woman in her 60s, offered a trembling apology. I'm sorry, love. I didn't know. Nafisat shook her head. It's him, Emeka Chidike. He's got the theater on his payroll. That night, social media erupted. Hashtag ballet fail. Hashtag Paris dreams dashed. Every panelist, every critic, lambasted her with merciless sarcasm. Yet beneath the mockery, a few voices whispered, "Why? What did she do to deserve this?" Nafisat pressed her palms to the cool concrete backstage wall. Embers of defiance sparked within her chest. She would turn this humiliation into fuel. She would find a way to make Emeka tremble. Under the cover of dawn, Nafisat crept into Saada's apartment, a converted warehouse loft above a dimly lit street market. Her friend's sanctuary was strewn with computers, humming servers, and tangled cables. A single window revealed the pink-blue twilight sky. Saad sat at her triple-screen workstation, face illuminated by lines of scrolling code. Was it as bad as I feared? Saad asked without turning. Her voice was low, conspiratorial. They'd spent countless nights dreaming, planning for Paris. Now those dreams lay in shambles. Saad slid a USB drive across the desk. This is from Lord Chidike's private network. Offshore accounts, ghost companies, some funnily titled Amadi Enterprises. Looks like Emeka's been laundering money through your name to cover his gambling debts. Nafisat's eyes widened. Why? Her voice cracked. Why me? Because you were laid back enough to trust him, Saad replied, brows furrowed. He thought you'd never fight back. She rotated her chair. But look at this. Did you know he personally influenced at least 3 ministry officials? When we hacked that meeting transcript from last week, he was bragging about crushing a ballerina no one would remember. Nafisat clenched her fists. He wanted to erase me. The tremor in her jaw matched the pixelated face of the hacking terminal. She swallowed hard. So what's our move? Saada's lips curved into a sly grin. We expose him. We leak everything, financial records, transcripts, internal memos, straight to the press and the ministry oversight. But we need more insider proof. We need to get into Chidike Enterprises' world. Nafisat met Saada's gaze, resolve shimmering. Then we'll don the mask. A week later, Nafisat stood before the ornate gates of the Chidike family estate, masquerading as an event intern named Nia. Clad in a black skirt suit and clutching a clipboard, she wore her hair in a sleek ponytail and a confident smile. The iron gates swung open at the wave of her pass card, lifted by Saada's duplicating wizardry, revealing a cobblestone courtyard lined with fountains and sculptures. Inside the grand ballroom, crystal chandeliers dangled like frozen waterfalls. Executives in tuxedos nursed champagne, exchanging hushed pleasantries. Posters of Lord Chidike and Emeka adorned the marble walls like benevolent deities. Saada's voice crackled in her earpiece, northwest corner behind the bar. That group in navy suits, start there. Nafisat wove through clusters of guests, clipboard raised. She stopped by a trio of financiers, offering hors d'oeuvres. "Can I get you more champagne, sir?" She addressed a tall man with silver hair. He eyed her coolly. "No, thank you. But I admire your composure." His accent was clipped, European. "You're a natural at this." She smiled. "Thank you, sir. I'm Nia, intern's team." She jotted notes. "Let me know if you need anything." He watched her retreat, suspicion knitting his brow. Moments later, Nafisat slipped behind a velvet curtain into a quiet corridor. Through a partially open door, she spied Emeka's office. Gold-trimmed desk, leather-bound journals, a wall of screens streaming market data. She pressed her phone's camera, snapping pictures of a contract titled Chidike Enterprises, Amadi Enterprises Dissolution Agreement. A voice boomed behind her. Well, what do we have here?" Emeka's silhouette filled the doorway, backlit by the chandelier's glow. Nafisat froze. He advanced, eyes narrowed. "You're not on the staff roster, dear intern." He extended a hand. "Name?" She swallowed. Nia Johnson." Her voice wavered. Emeka tilted his head. "Interesting. Very interesting." He stepped aside. "Go on then. We wouldn't want to embarrass you." Nafisat dashed out, heart pounding. "Saad, I'm safe, but I got the contract." "Good," Saada's voice crackled. "Now, let's see what else we can dig." Nafisat exhaled, adrenaline still coursing. She'd breached the lion's den. Now it was time to let the roar out. 3 days later, Nafisat sat tucked behind a giant potted palm in the visitors' gallery of Chidike Enterprises headquarters. A glitch in Saada's cloned ID had granted her temporary access to observe the quarterly board meeting. Through the glass walls, she watched Emeka preside over a semicircle of 20 executives, their faces masks of polite indifference. Lord Chidike, regal in a navy suit, sat at the head of the table. His voice carried the weight of decades, each syllable measured. "Our philanthropic arm, the Chidike Arts Fund, requires reallocation. The Amadi Academy in Ikorodu no longer aligns with our strategic priorities." He paused, letting his words land. "I propose we demolish the facility and invest in cities with higher returns." Gasps rippled around the table. One board member, a stern woman named Ms. Obianuju, protested. "Sir, that school nurtured talent. Many graduates have moved abroad, but its social value is immense." Emeka waved a hand. "Social value doesn't pay dividends." He turned to a younger executive. "Marshall, prepare the demolition proposals. We move next quarter." Nafisat's breath stuttered. Her childhood academy, where she'd first pirouetted, was slated for ruin. She raised her phone, recording every syllable. A faint cough from behind interrupted her. A young assistant hovered, eyes darting. Alarm flashed in her mind. Before she could blink, the assistant opened the door. "Board members, this meeting is," he glanced at Nafisat. Recognition dawned. "You shouldn't be here." Nafisat bolted through the side door. Smartphone clutched like a lifeline. The echo of her fleeing footsteps trailed behind her as alarms began to wail. She emerged into the bustling lobby, adrenaline surging. "Got the demolition order," she whispered into her phone. "Now we have everything." In the elevator, she sank against a steel wall, trembling. The weight of evidence in her hands was staggering. Scholarship sabotage, money laundering, conspiracy to demolish her legacy. At that moment, Nafisat Amadi no longer saw herself as a victim. She was the conductor of a symphony of retribution, the opening notes of her grand revenge just beginning. One thing was certain. Emeka Chidike and his father's empire would never see her coming. The early morning haze clung to Lagos's skyline like a veil as Detective Kunal Ajayi parked his unmarked sedan outside Nafisat's modest Ikoyi apartment. Rain-slick streets reflected neon signs, and the faint echo of Friday prayers drifted across the city. Ajayi checked his watch, 6:15 a.m., and slipped a manila envelope onto the passenger seat. Inside, bank statements, memos, and audio transcripts proving Chidike Enterprises had secretly funneled millions into shell companies controlled by Emeka Chidike. He knocked softly on Nafisat's door. She opened it bleary-eyed in pajamas, hair tangled. "Detective Ajayi," she whispered, surprised. He held up the envelope. "I promise discretion and proof." Nafisat's heart thundered. "You tracked this down on your own." Ajayi offered a wan smile. "We both want justice. I've been investigating corruption inside Chidike Enterprises for months. Your case gave me the break I needed." He stepped inside, scanning the walls decorated with ballet posters. "May I?" She nodded. He laid out dozens of documents on her coffee table. Spreadsheets of illicit payouts to politicians, emails discussing neutralizing obstacles, i.e., talented artists like Nafisat, and transcripts of Emeka boasting about crushing competitors. "This is enough to bring charges," Ajayi said quietly. "But I can't do it alone. I need credible testimony from you and your evidence." Nafisat picked up a transcript in which Emeka laughed about pulling her scholarship. Her knuckles whitened. "He destroyed everything I worked for, my family's pride, my dreams." Ajayi met her gaze. "Then let's finish what he started. I'll keep these documents safe. You continue exposing him publicly. Social media, press leaks, everything. I'll file charges when the momentum is on our side." A flicker of hope ignited in Nafisat's chest. "You're afraid of the backlash?" He shook his head. "I'm afraid of the truth being buried. With you on stage and me behind the scenes, we can't lose." They clasped hands, a silent pact between ballerina and lawman. As Ajayi departed, Nafisat felt the weight of the evidence in her lap transform from burden to weapon. The war had gained a powerful ally in the shadows. That night, Nafisat and Saad convened in the loft once more. The humming servers bathed the room in a soft blue glow. Saada's fingers flew across the keyboard as she initiated a brute force exploit on Lord Chidike's private cloud. Nafisat paced, performing balletic arabesques to calm her nerves. "Once we're in," Saad murmured, eyes glued to the code, "we'll map out every directory, emails, financials, personnel files, even the family's personal chat logs." She wiped sweat from her brow. This isn't just about Emeka anymore. Lord Chidike's reputation, his philanthropic facade, it's all one big house of cards. Suddenly, Saad froze. "Got something." She expanded a folder labeled Legacy_Plan. Inside, scan deeds to Amadi Academy, showing Chidike Enterprises owned the land and planned its demolition next quarter. Another folder, Silence_Gold, contained audio recordings of Lord Chidike instructing Emeka to handle the dancer discreetly. Nafisat's eyes stung. "He lied to me, invited me to dinner, pretended to be my friend." Saad nodded grimly. "We have leverage, proof of intent, evidence of conspiracy. Plus, Lord Chidike's own words admitting to criminal collusion. We can't keep this quiet." Nafisat closed her eyes, picturing her father's tears when he first heard the demolition plan. "We leak everything at once. Public servers, press, social media, civil society groups, flood them." Saad grinned. "Exactly. A data dump that even Michael Cohen would envy." She hit enter. Lines of code scrolled, the hack deployed. Within minutes, encrypted archives began uploading to multiple whistleblower platforms. Notifications pinged. Upload complete. The loft door burst open. Detective Ajayi, rain-drenched, strode in. "It's live," he panted. Saad nodded. "Every document, every file worldwide." Ajayi's phone vibrated. He read a breaking news alert. Leaked. Chidike Enterprises secret memo. Billionaire father plots to crush artist. He showed Nafisat. "They're picking it up already." Nafisat allowed herself a small, triumphant smile. Let them watch him fall. By morning, Nigerian news outlets blitzed screens with headlines. Chidike scandal, dynasty in disarray, Emeka Chidike's dark confession leaked, family foundation funds illegal payouts. Talk show hosts gossiped that morning's gala had become a PR nightmare. Hashtag Chidike exposed trended. Emeka's phone vibrated relentlessly. He stormed into Lord Chidike's penthouse study, where the elder statesman gazed at a live TV debate. "Father, what is happening?" Emeka snarled. Lord Chidike didn't flinch. "Your hubris, son. You underestimated her and us." He gestured to the TV. "The board is convening as we speak. Investors are withdrawing." Emeka pounded the mahogany desk. "We'll issue a denial. Say it's a hack, an orchestrated attack." Lord Chidike closed a folder. "You orchestrated the attack on her. Now face the consequences." He pressed a button. The floor-to-ceiling window darkened. "I'm distancing the company from you. Effective immediately, you are no longer CEO." Emeka's face drained of color. His empire, handed to him by birth, crumbled in real time. Outside, sirens wailed as anti-corruption officials raided the headquarters. Reporters clamored for statements. Emeka shoved past his father, desperate. "I'll fix this." Lord Chidike's voice was ice. "No. You broke the trust, both mine and the public's. You're on your own." He turned away, leaving Emeka to watch his own ruin broadcast live. Meanwhile, Nafisat watched the feed from Sada's loft, tears of vindication in her eyes. She leaned back, letting the weight of justice settle in her chest. Emeka Chidike, the man who stole her dream, now lay exposed, stripped of title and honor. 2 nights later, Nafisat received an ornate invitation engraved in gold. A private dinner at the Chidike estate. The note read simply, "Join me, Nafisat Amadi. I have an explanation." Alarmed but curious, she donned a sleek black gown, simple yet elegant, and met Lord Chidike at a discreet service entrance. He greeted her with a curt nod, leading her through silent hallways lit by flickering sconces. They entered a candlelit library where a low table was set for 2. The scent of truffle risotto filled the air. Lord Chidike gestured to a chair. "Please sit." His face was unreadable in the dim light. Nafisat's pulse raced. "Why now? After everything you did." He poured her a glass of vintage Bordeaux. "I did what any father would do to protect his son and his legacy." He paused, looking at her across the table. "But I was wrong. You showed courage and integrity I long admired in my own mother." She bristled. "You sabotaged my life, demolished my academy. Is that protection?" He sighed, shoulders sagging. "I had no choice. Our board demanded growth metrics profits. Emeka underestimated you and I listened to him." He reached into his jacket and withdrew a small jewelry box. A belated apology. Inside lay a delicate gold bracelet engraved with a ballet slipper. "My mother gave me this when I was a boy. I should have honored your talent instead of crushing it." Nafisat's throat tightened. She touched the bracelet's cool metal. "Why should I trust you now?" He leaned forward. "Because I believe in art. I want to right my wrongs. Join me in creating something lasting, a foundation for young dancers." She met his gaze, weighing sincerity against betrayal. "Allies in the shadows," she whispered, recalling Ajayi's words. "I'm listening." The following afternoon, Nafisat and Saad sat in Lord Chidike's oak-paneled boardroom, sunlight streaming through stained glass windows. Lord Chidike placed 2 documents on the table. A partnership agreement between Chidike Enterprises and Nafisat Amadi's new Dawn Ballet Company, and a non-competition clause barring Emeka Chidike from any involvement in dance or arts funding. Saad leaned in, whispering, "This will give you legal protection and ensure Emeka can never hurt another artist." Lord Chidike watched as Nafisat read the fine print. 1. Seed funding of 500 million Nigerian nairas for the New Dawn Ballet Foundation. 2. A board seat for Nafisat with veto power over demolition or repurposing of any artistic institution. 3. Emeka permanently excluded from arts-related ventures. His signature, followed by hers, would finalize the agreement. Nafisat looked up. You're giving me control over your entire arts fund. He nodded. I want to prove I mean it. This, he tapped the document, will be public record. No more backroom deals. She exhaled, heart pounding. Every clause was meticulously crafted to neutralize Emeka and safeguard artists nationwide. She picked up the pen. Then let's begin a new chapter. They signed. The click of the pen echoed in the silent room. Lord Chidike and Nafisat exchanged a nod of uneasy respect. Saad leaned back, relief flooding her features. Outside, a flurry of reporters awaited, but within those walls a pact had been sealed. Nafisat's revenge had become a renaissance for Nigeria's art scene. As Nafisat walked away, contract in hand, she felt the tremor of destiny shift beneath her feet. The stage was hers once more, and this time she would dance not for a scholarship, but for an entire generation. Under the guise of the new partnership, Nafisat took up an office in Chidike Enterprises' sleek Lagos headquarters. Polished marble floors reflected her determined stride as she passed executives who once sneered at her. Now, she sat among them, her nameplate embossed in gold, tasked with advising on arts initiatives. Her plan? To sow fissures between board members still loyal to Emeka and those willing to embrace reform. In her first week, she scheduled one-on-one consultations with key directors over iced hibiscus tea in the executive lounge. She praised their financial acumen, but hinted gently at the risk of continuing with Emeka's old guard. Public trust is fragile, she'd say, eyes meeting theirs. A single misstep could have our stock value overnight. At another meeting, she arranged for a leaked memo, seemingly from Emeka, demanding aggressive cost cuts to the arts fund. Directors who'd balked at demolition now bristled at his purported ruthlessness. Rumors rippled that Emeka wanted to replace them with his own appointees. Meanwhile, Saad and Detective Ajayi fed Nafisat real-time intelligence via discreet messages. Who was wavering, who remained staunchly pro-Emeka, and which alliances could be flipped. By the end of the month, nearly half the board had privately agreed to remove Emeka from any decision-making role, even before the formal vote. In the echoing hallways of Chidike Enterprises, the lion's den was shifting. Nafisat had infiltrated its core, and the pride was ripe for a decisive strike. Back at the penthouse, Lord Chidike paced before his panoramic windows, the city lights of Victoria Island glittering below. Emeka slumped in a wingback chair, nursing a scotch. I can't believe they turned on me, Emeka snarled. You promised your support. Lord Chidike's shoulders sagged. I promised justice, fairness. You abused your power. He tapped his temple. You could hear them in the meeting room, whispers of mistrust. Emeka slammed his glass down. So you side with her? A ballerina. Lord Chidike closed his eyes. Not with her, against corruption. He opened a drawer and withdrew Nafisat's partnership contract. Read this clause. The board retains exclusive authority over arts funding, with veto rights granted to the director of the New Dawn Ballet Foundation. He let the paper flutter. That's her power now. Emeka snatched the contract, eyes scanning the fine print. His face paled. You gave her my empire. That empire was never yours alone, Lord Chidike replied. I built it on accountability. I won't watch you dismantle your father's legacy. As Emeka stormed out, thunder rumbled in the distance. Lord Chidike stared after him, doubt and regret warring in his gaze. The father who once shielded his son now questioned every decision and every loyalty within his dynasty. The quarterly shareholders' meeting convened in the grand auditorium of Chidike Enterprises campus. Rows of dignitaries and institutional investors filled the plush seats, eager for updates on the scandal's fallout. Cameras lined the aisles. Live streams beamed to stakeholders worldwide. Emeka, flanked by loyalists, took the podium first. He launched into a rehearsed apology, attributing his actions to personal failings and promising to refocus on growth. But his words rang hollow over the hum of dissent. Then Nafisat rose from her seat in the front row. In a crisp navy suit, the same color as Lord Chidike's, she tapped the microphone. "Good morning. I'm Nafisat Amadi, director of the New Dawn Ballet Foundation and proud board member." Murmurs swept the room. She smiled, calm and poised. "Today, we face an opportunity to redefine what leadership means in our enterprise." She laid out a presentation, not on profit margins, but on societal impact, on how investing in the arts had generated positive brand value, community goodwill, and long-term sustainability. As she spoke, the majority of attendees nodded in agreement. When the vote was called, "Shall Emeka Chidike be removed from all executive roles?" Hands shot up almost unanimously. Emeka's jaw clenched as the chairperson confirmed. By a vote of 72%, the motion carries. Applause erupted. Emeka stormed out, face slick with fury. Nafisat remained standing, dignified as the boardroom, once a stronghold, turned to her in gratitude and respect. That night, Nafisat returned home to her family's Ikoyi residence. The door burst open behind her. Emeka's henchmen, hulking figures in black masks, lunged forward. "Where is she?" one snarled. Nafisat raised her hands. "I won't." A blow to her shoulder sent her sprawling. Her teenage brother, Tund, emerged clutching a cricket bat. "Leave her alone," he cried. But the men grabbed him, dragging him into a waiting van. Nafisat scrambled to her feet, heart pounding. "Tund!" she screamed through the stormy night as the van screeched away. Rain pelted her dark skin, mingling with tears. Her world shattered. Inside the van, Tund trembled. "Aunt Nafisat, help me." Emeka's voice crackled over a walkie-talkie. "Tell her to drop the foundation and resign from the board, now, or he won't see tomorrow." Back on the street, Nafisat's knees buckled. She dialed Saad and Ajayi in rapid succession, voice shaking. "He's got Tund. He wants me to forfeit everything." Detective Ajayi's strained reply, "We're mobilizing, just hold on." In that moment, revenge gave way to desperation. The stakes had become painfully personal. Lightning flashed as Saad and Ajayi converged on the abandoned warehouse where Tund was held. Saada's hack secured entry, overriding the security gate, while Ajayi announced his badge. They breached the door to find Emeka pacing, Tund bound to a chair. "Nice of you to join us," Emeka sneered, waving a gun. Ajayi dove for cover behind crates. "Let him go, Emeka," he barked. Nafisat burst through the side door, baton in hand. "Stand down," she cried, voice echoing. Emeka's grin faltered. He hadn't expected her. "This is your doing," he spat at her. Saad, fingers poised on a mini drone controller, released a small quadcopter that buzzed toward Emeka's hand, disarming him with a well-aimed net. Ajayi lunged forward, cuffing Emeka as Tund scrambled free. Mother and brother embraced, rain cascading around them. Emeka cursed, hauled away by officers. Nafisat cradled Tund's head, relief mingling with fury. Detective Ajayi placed a hand on her shoulder. "You did it, both of you." Saad slipped into the doorway, drenched but triumphant. "Let's rebuild." Amid the thunderous storm, Nafisat realized this siege had forged an unbreakable bond between her and her allies, and that revenge, when guided by justice, could illuminate even the darkest night. As the first pale light of morning seeped through the slatted blinds, Nafisat stood in Lord Chidike's private study, the air thick with anticipation. On the polished desk lay photographs Sod had unearthed. Lord Chidike inaugurating Orphans of Tomorrow clinics, funded, unbeknownst to the public, by embezzled grants earmarked for grassroots dance programs. He entered, rubbing sleep from his eyes. I didn't know, he whispered, voice cracking. Nafisat held up the images. These smiles, she said softly, came at the price of every young dancer you claimed to uplift. His jaw tightened. I wanted the hospitals. I thought no one would notice the shift. She set the photos down. You built your reputation on philanthropy, and I gave you my trust. But trust must be earned. Lord Chidike's shoulders slumped. Years of pride melted into regret. Tell me how to fix this, he said. With the first rays of dawn behind her, Nafisat, now the architect of accountability, laid out a plan. Full restitution to Amadi Academy, transparent audits of the fund, and public apologies at the upcoming Arts Gala. He nodded, solemn. Their alliance would now rest on truth, not convenience. That evening's live broadcast of the Chidike Arts Gala crackled with electric tension. Studio lights danced across the stage as Nafisat, in a flowing emerald gown, took the podium before millions. Behind her, a widescreen flickered with documents. Offshore account transfers, internal emails, recorded confessions. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, voice steady. You've heard the songs of our achievements. Tonight, you'll hear the silence we broke. Her fingers brushed a stack of letters, statements from former employees, whistleblowers, even Emeka himself, filmed confessing under immunity. At her signal, the screen played Emeka's own voice. I deliberately crushed Nafisat's scholarship because I feared her potential. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The camera panned to Lord Chidike, tears glistening as he watched his son's downfall. Nafisat turned back to the audience. We stand at a crossroads. Will we let legacy be measured by wealth or by integrity? Thunderous applause followed. In that final gambit, she didn't just expose a crime. She redefined power itself as a force for good. Within hours, anti-corruption units arrested Emeka Chidike at his Ocean View penthouse. News helicopters hovered as black-clad officers led him through a gauntlet of flashing cameras. He glared at Nafisat, now seated among VIPs at the gala, his empire reduced to handcuffs and headlines. Board members rushed to distance themselves. Resignations cascaded like dominoes. Chidike Enterprises' stock plummeted, triggering emergency meetings on restructuring and governance reforms. Lord Chidike, beside Nafisat on the gala stage, addressed the world. My son will face justice. I vow to rebuild this company on the bedrock of honesty. In the aftermath, Chidike Enterprises dissolved its toxic divisions, reinstated donations to arts and education, and launched a transparent oversight committee co-chaired by Nafisat. The fall from grace was swift and absolute, but from its wreckage rose the first beams of a truly reformed dynasty. 6 months later, under a vaulted glass ceiling in the refurbished Amadi Academy, Nafisat's new Dawn Ballet Company premiered its inaugural performance, a modern retelling of Swan Lake, choreographed to mirror her journey of betrayal and redemption. Velvet-draped balconies brimmed with dignitaries, students, and families. As the orchestra's first chord soared, Nafisat took the stage in a white tutu, spotlit as she rose onto point. Every extension, every arabesque, embodied her resilience. Midway through, her partner, once Emeka's favored dancer, paused, offering her a hand as the music swelled. The audience held its breath. In that symbolic gesture, former adversaries united in art. When the final curtain fell, the crowd erupted in standing ovation. Tears glistened on Nafisat's cheeks as she took her bow. Her triumph not just personal but communal. She had danced through fire and emerged a beacon for every young dreamer watching. 1 year on, the Chidike Arts Foundation ribbon-cutting ceremony filled Ikorodu with hopeful faces. Lord Chidike and Nafisat stood side by side, scissors in hand, before the gleaming facade of the new Amadi Cultural Center, a hub for dance, music, and digital arts. Banners read, "From ruin we rise." Lord Chidike addressed the crowd. "Today we honor the power of art to heal and unite." He nodded to Nafisat. She smiled, memory flickering back to that first crushed scholarship. Together, they cut the ribbon. As the doors swung open, Saad guided a group of underprivileged children eager to explore their first ballet studio. Detective Ajayi watched from the sidelines, pride shining in his eyes. Nafisat knelt to greet the smallest dancer, placing a point shoe in her hand. "Your dream is safe here," she whispered. In that moment, legacy was no longer stolen or sold. It was shared. Nafisat's journey had come full circle, from crushed dancer to catalyst of change, proving that when you seize your destiny, you can rewrite history for yourself and for generations to come. The end.